Hey there, friends. Because I view this upcoming election as the most historic and the most important election in our lifetime, I wanted to focus this video just on a quick blurb about the two candidates. I'm going to play some very, very recent videos of both of them. I want to use the phrase going into a lion's den because I felt like Bret Baier with Fox was certainly not a lion as far as his challenging of Kamala. But I thought he did an admirable job knowing that he's not a Trump supporter. But both of these candidates within the last week have gone into areas that are unfriendly to them or not known to be overly friendly to them. Fox News is certainly not going to pave the way for Kamala like the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the ABCs, and CBSs have done and are known for doing going forward. So Fox News can be viewed as being anti-Kamala if you want to look at it like that. I do think the majority of the viewers certainly are more pro-Trump than Kamala. Where Trump, on the other hand, went into Chicago to a Bloomberg meeting with a bunch of CEOs and business leaders in America. I want you to think long and hard when you look at these couple of clips that I'm going to show you guys. First up is Kamala. And I'm doing this just randomly. I have no particular reason to push her first. I want you to see and pay particular attention to the lack of substance when she answers a question. She never answers the question. It's a pivot. It's a filibuster to delay time. Like she'll say, I'm speaking, but then she delays a long time in between to burn the time up because she knows there's a limited amount of time. And if she can filibuster long enough, the interview will hurry up and end and save her without having to actually think. She doesn't have to come up with anything substantial that makes any real sense to say. All she's got to do is talk poorly about Donald Trump, and that's her approach. Her approach is never to lay out policy. It's always to talk about whatever policy Trump may have been a part of. It's not to reveal her own. So she's very inadequate. She's not capable of having a real conversation. And by them cramming a 1 hour agreed upon interview with Kamala Harris and Bret Baier into 26 minutes, that was their way to throw Bret Baier off and have him limit his questions and essentially rush through them so that she wouldn't be taxed to have to really answer anything. Had he had a full hour, I think you would have probably seen her screw up even more. But pay particular attention to the lack of substance. There's never a real answer when Kamala is answering. It's all platitudes. It's all little hope and change and feel-good garbage. It's not, this is what happened and this is what we did. And finally, the one thing that I really want you guys to pay very close attention to when you look at both of these people talking in these clips, again, in somewhat hostile territory, pay attention to the confidence. Not just the answer, but pay attention to the confidence in that person not being rattled, comfortable in their own skin, comfortable speaking without needing notes to look at, being able to pull things from here, right? Not from here. I don't need the touchy-feely stuff, but pay very close attention to the confidence in how they deliver.
You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, in the several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel, I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military in doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
but those
is,
proxies were getting funded by
my
Iran.
commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's administration
that Iran regime
that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
Well, I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision that they feel.
Who look at what the administration did and say and think differently.
So nothing there. I mean, even when she was tasked on the Iran thing, the best she could come up with wasn't a policy. It was that when Iran did bad things, I was there. Well, I think what he was looking for is, what are you doing? Why were you there? What were you doing while you were there? And if you are president, what will you do differently or the same? Give me some substance. Don't tell me that I was there and boy, Donald Trump is really bad. Man, he's a bad guy. Well, can you answer the question? Well, let's focus on the question, Brett. I was there. And let's talk about the real point, Brett. We have to have hope. We have to lift up the people. We have to realize that we have somebody who is a bad person, and I'm not that person. So if you elect me, I won't be that person, because I still won't be that person, and that person won't be there to do the bad things that that person does. And since I'm not that person and I would be there, I wouldn't be doing the bad things that that person would have done if that bad person would have been here, right? She doesn't say anything. I mean, she literally talks in circles and says absolutely nothing. Now, by contrast, I want you to see Trump. Trump goes into this Bloomberg meeting, which, by the way, Kamala Harris refused to go to this.
Just for the record and for those people watching on television, the Economic Club of Chicago and Bloomberg both invited Vice President Harris to a similar interview about her economic plans that she has declined so far.
This is a group of people that would normally be friendly to her because it's in Chicago, it's Bloomberg, right? All left-leaning. Certainly the host would have definitely been very polite to her and very, I guess, gushy over her and love to her to be there. But she won't go because she can't talk to anybody and offer solutions or any real details that make any sense. By contrast, look at Trump. Trump is asked a specific question and he doesn't say, I'm going to do different than what Kamala and Joe did. I'm going to do things different. When he does talk about the differences between he and them, he gives very, very clear specifics. I think this is really important. Watch this and you think about the difference between the two, how one can answer a question with nothing and how the other can answer a question calmly and coolly.
There are a lot of jobs that rely on foreigners coming here. You're going to basically stop trade with China. You're talking about 60% trade on that, 60% tariffs on that. You're talking, as you said, 100, 200% on things you don't really like. You're also talking about 10, 20% tariffs on the rest of the world. That is going to have a serious effect on the overall economy. And yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive in terms of the economy.
I agree it's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
let me just let me tell you.
me an
I know how
example.
committed you are to this, and it must be hard for you to spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative, and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong. It'll have a negative. It will have. I'll go a step further. If you don't do this,
President
this
Trump,
country has no
40
chance.
million jobs is a lot of jobs to rely on
They're
trade.
all coming back.
Those are
You've
40 million
lost.
jobs. Those are 40 million jobs in America that rely on trade.
Are you ready? John Deere, great company. They announced about a year ago they're going to build big plants outside of the United States, right? They're going to build them in Mexico.
And you threatened
They're
them with
also going
tariffs
to build.
and they stopped.
That's right. I said, if John Deere builds those plants, they're not selling anything into the United States. They just announced yesterday they're probably not going to build the plants, okay? I kept the jobs here, and I'll keep them. John Deere will stay here. And I'll tell John Deere, if you do build outside of the United States, you can if you want. For instance, India is a very tough country. It's not only China. You know, China is the, I would say, probably the toughest. But there are a lot of tough. You know what's very tough? European Union. Our beautiful European countries, wonderful, wonderful. If you add them up, they're almost the size of us. They treat us so badly. We have a deficit. I said to Angela Merkel when she was there, she's not there anymore, I wonder why, but when she was there, I said, Angela, how many Chevrolets do we have in Berlin? Why, Donald, you have none. He said, that's right. How many Fords do we have in Frankfurt? I don't know, none. I said, that's right. You know how many cars we have? Mercedes-Benz, BMW, all of the Volkswagen, millions and millions of cars. And then I said farm products. You know, they don't want our farm. They don't want anything from us. We have deficits that are crazy. And we're not going to have them anymore. We're going to put tariffs on them, and they're going to do. And you know what they can do? The Mercedes-Benz will start building in the United States. And they have a little bit. But you know what they really are? Assembly, like in South Carolina. But they build everything in Germany, and then they assemble it here. They get away with murder because they say, oh, yes, we're building cars. They don't build cars. They take them out of a box and they assemble them. We could have our child do it.
Again, folks, I really wanted you guys to see the difference in confidence between these two, but also substance. Those are two very important things. It's one thing if you're a confident speaker, but if you have nothing to say, it's kind of pointless. It's also another thing to have a lot to say, but you cannot deliver it. I have a lot of things that I'm not happy with Donald Trump on as far as the Second Amendment goes. I think that because he's not engaged with the gun community, he simply doesn't know what we want and how we think. I know his sons are gun guys, but clearly he's not, pressing them to provide him with what we really are looking for. So I do have my own issues with Donald Trump that I would like to see him correct going forward. However, you have to admit that when you compare these two candidates, we are talking about a person who is very much prepared for this job and a person who is so out there, so disengaged with the general public, so clueless, so not very smart. She is not a bright person. Kamala, let's face it, we joke about how dumb she is. She's stupid. Like she's really stupid. But she does not have the confidence to do anything. You elect this person, Kamala Harris, and you are going to have a bitter, mean old lady in office who is constantly passing the buck on everybody else who screws up in her administration, whereas you have Donald Trump, who does hold people to account. Yes, I mean, he will fire you in a heartbeat, but it's because he expects more out of you. This man can talk the talk. She can't talk the talk, and she certainly cannot walk the walk. This was very enlightening to me to see the very, very stark contrast between these two people within the same week, going into territories that are friendly to the other in most cases, and seeing how they respond. And boy, if this wasn't eye-opening to the American public, I don't know what is.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's over.